Thank you for joining us. Okay, so this session is going to be as brief as possible. So please, we do not intend to take so much of your time, and also we are also imploring you to ensure that you also pay attention as well while the session is going on, because you are definitely going to be getting a lot out of this webinar this evening, right? So we are basically talking about something that is very, very important for us if we're going to be transitioning into tech. Okay, and that is the career powering modern businesses, which is Cloud DevOps. So I believe we're excited. We're really, really excited and super ready. So please ensure that you get your pen, get your journal to, take down notes, because we have a very solid professional on the call who is going to be taking us through this session this evening. Ensure that you do not just join this call and you're inactive. Just get your notes ready, get your tab ready just to take notes. It's going to be very, very impactful. All right, but before we go on, we'll just like to meet us very briefly before we go on to what we have for today. We'd like to know where you're joining us from, and also your expectation for joining this webinar. One expectation you are also looking to take out from this webinar. So we want to be able to know whether this is going to be a session that was really helpful for you at the end of the webinar session. So ensure that you just tell us your location. That's basically where you're joining us from. Let us know if you have a tech experience prior to now. Maybe you're in data analytics and you've been hearing about cloud computing, you've been hearing about DevOps, but you are also thinking of how to transition into tech. So let us know if you have the intention of transitioning into tech as well, or you are a newbie and you're hoping that, oh, maybe there's something for me in this cloud and DevOps space. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. While we are also doing that, we are going to take time out to also share this invite with our friends, our colleagues, our network, because this is really going to be an amazing session. I can promise you that. We have our industry, a very solid professional basically, who has been in this space and works with AWS as well. I'm not getting into the intro yet, but I'm just letting you know what we are going to be getting from this webinar tonight. So ensure that you share the link. We are going to drop the link to the invite in the chat box. So please ensure that you share the link with your friends. Get somebody to join that call. You might have a friend who is probably confused at this stage of their career and thinking about what to do next. This is the right time for you to be that good friend, to be that great friend, that supportive friend. If you can't support them financially, at least you can support them with just you sending them a link to join the call. So please ensure that you share the link with them as well. We have the link here already. So yes, that's the link in the chat box. Oh, great. We have it already. So please do well to share with them. We can be much more than this. There is no point hoarding this kind of session, right? There's no point hoarding this kind of session. So kindly reach out to your friends, your colleague, just drop them a message. You can put it in that tech community page as well. Let people know that something is happening today or tonight as well. All right. Okay, so before we go on as well, I was saying that if you're going to if you plan to transition into tech, we want to get to know you. Also get to know where you're joining us from as well. All right. So please ensure that you do that in the chat box before we go on. We just want to really get to know you and get to have an idea of who our audience is tonight. Let's know who we're speaking to. So who is going to start? Who's going to get started? Who's going to get started with the introduction? Who's going to get started? You can just put it in the chat box. We want to read from you very quickly. I'm waiting for our comments. Richard, Adiola, let's get to hear from you. Ope, Donald. Oh, I can see that the numbers are going up. Amazing. Thank you. Let's still get to invite more of our friends to join the call. Let's still get more of them to get join. Okay. Richard says that he's joining from Derby, UK. Okay, so Richard, have you been into tech before now, or you're planning to transition into tech? Let us know. Let us know. Or cloud DevOps, to let us know. To let us know. Waiting for others as well. Waiting for others as well. We're not just here to listen to what our speaker has to say. Of course, that is also very important, but we also want to get to know you, you know. Hey, I think we have some other messages. All right. Okay, great. Adiola is joining from Lagos. She's a product manager and hoping to transition into cloud computing and engineering. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Adiola. Okay, Rachel, an IT audit. Okay, she's also joining from the UK as well. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for that introduction. Amazing. Amazing. I can see that we have some people who are into tech already here, basically. All right, let's get to hear from more people. Let's get to hear from more people. Olanike, Mustafa, we want to hear from you. Ridwan, Donald, let's get to hear from you. Okay, let's get to hear from you as well. Let's get to hear from you. Just to have an idea, if you already are in tech and if you are just planning to transition into tech. Okay, waiting for our comments, waiting for our comments. Okay, I think we have another comment here. Great. Okay, so yeah, Mustafa says is joining from Lagos, Nigeria. He's a site reliability engineer payment system. Amazing. This is the tech group. Okay, well done, Mustafa. Well done, well done. That's really a good one. That's really a good one. All right, so without further ado, was 16 minutes already into the session. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing a speaker right away, right away. There's no time anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce him, and then he takes over from there. So if you have any question, do ensure that you drop your questions in the comment section. You can use the comment section as well. You can put in your question there as well. So we will be taking all of your question. All right. Okay, so of course we have Charles on the call, and Charles is a fixer and reformer at art, passionate about problem solving and the technology industry. Charles is a senior cloud engineer at Amazon Web Services, that's AWS. Before Amazon, Charles worked with an indigenous exploration and production firm in Nigeria and was in charge of the IT infrastructure and IT service management. Charles has a bachelor's in electrical and electronic engineering from the University of Ibadan and was appointed a Google Student Ambassador to UI by Google while on campus. His skill sets include enterprise cloud architecture, infrastructure as code, automation system, administration, networking, and scripting. He is an avid reader and lifelong learner. Whenever you don't find Charles behind the computer screen, he is possibly drumming away his fingers at the piano. So ladies and gentlemen, we have the honor and the privilege to have Charles on the call with us tonight. Thank you so much. I can see the emojis coming in. If we're excited to have Charles on the call, please let's put in the emojis. Let's put in the reactions. I can't get to see our reactions. Are we ready at all? Okay, good. Good. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to you, Charles. You're welcome once again.
Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to this short webinar. Just FYI, don't expect to know everything about Cloud DevOps. If I tell you I know everything about Cloud DevOps, I'll be lying, because as I'm speaking, new commits are made to public repositories around the world. New tools are being released. By the time I wake up tomorrow morning, there's already a knowledge gap. So don't let that scare you. The industry is very dynamic, growing very rapidly. So at least what I want to achieve by this presentation is kind of inspire you, especially if you've been considering taking up a role in cloud computing or in the cloud, or what the cloud is, or things around that, or even if you're coming from a different career, we've seen people that have gone through the Cloud Booster program coming from different, very extremely different fields like English, literature, um, marketing, and different fields. And the beauty of cloud engineering, cloud computing, cloud DevOps industry is that the barrier to entry is almost zero, right? Not zero, but yeah, as long as you can read and write and you have a computer, yeah, the barrier to entry is almost zero. So let's take it away. So the title of our presentation is DevOps Powering Modern Businesses. Charles here again. A technical account manager, as you must have heard, with AWS within Europe. I work from Amsterdam with AWS. The couple cloud providers out there, don't let that scare you. You don't have to know everything. Once you know one, it's easy to the same implementation will just be have a different name than the cloud provider. You don't have to name all of them, right? Feel free to choose as you go along. So this is a high level of our agenda for today. I'm not gonna go ahead and read every bullet point, right? I'm just gonna go right into it. Yeah, I'm not going to go through my bio. They've possibly read out my bio to you, short bio to you, but yes, let's go on. The cloud accounts for less than 5% of global IT spending, right? We are still in early days in the cloud. This is a famous quote our by Amazon CEO. The idea of this quote is just let people know that look, we're still in the early days of the cloud. So if you're thinking the cloud is already saturated, many people are already into it, it's already been around for a while now, you're wrong, because 95% of enterprise enterprise workloads still run largely outside the cloud, either on premises or in co-location. So there's still a lot more room, more opportunities for workloads to migrate to the cloud and operated in the cloud. And what that means is that more opportunities, more roles, more opportunities for new joiners to join in. Right. Let's go on. So I'm just going to dive right into cloud DevOps and some of the concepts that are unique with the cloud DevOps role. It's a very short presentation. There'll be some time to ask questions at the end. Feel free to note down your questions. I'll take some 10 minutes to at least entertain your questions. If we can't go through everything today, but I'll try to do some justice. So, before we discuss cloud DevOps, it's interesting I just want to give the background. In the past, right, say 30, 25 years ago, when a solution, maybe BB10 or BB BlackBerry Messenger or Yahoo Messenger or any product, or Skype want to be released, the developers will develop their code, right? They'll give it to the operations or infrastructure team to deploy the code and pretty much maintain and operate the code in some infrastructure, either mostly on premises. There was no cloud 25 years ago. Well, yeah. And so there used to be a lot of issues. There used to be a lot of fights between the development team and the operations team. The development team will say, the code is working on my laptop. Why is it not working in the cloud? But when they deployed it to some server, they told them that, it's not working. It's giving errors. But the developers will be very arguing. They say, come and see it on my laptop. It's working. So development developing code and deploying wasn't seamless, right? Because the fact that you tested a code working on your laptop doesn't mean that it's gonna work in the cloud or work when it's eventually deployed in some other environments, possibly due to dependencies, OS compatibility, CPU a couple of things. So the field of DevOps was the idea of DevOps sitting between the operations and the development team was that to have instead of developers and operations engineers working in siloed format, let them collaborate directly from when the code is being written. The idea is that it will limit the friction, all the friction between the trust me, there was a lot of friction between the development team and operations. I've been on premises before. I worked for on premises environment for about 5 years before moving to cloud. So I've worked in both worlds. So, the idea of DevOps is to create that bridge between those that are building the software, right, and those that are operating it to reduce the boost, right, that goes on. My code is working, the version, or they release a new version, maybe they release a new update. The update is working on the engineer's laptop, but it's not working on the web server where it's deployed. Boost, they'll be love back and forth. So typically, there used to be a lot of friction between both teams. The releases didn't used to be as frequent. Now there are possibly hundreds of thousands of commits happening to maybe Facebook, Instagram, as we speak now. 100 different engineers, FIFA 10, FIFA 10 popular software that you use, FIFA 10, PES. There's several commits that are happening to the branch, to the member. Do you understand what a branch is as we're going? So, but my point is that several millions of commits are happening, and the frequency of commit is higher now compared to 25 years ago because there's now been increased synergy powered pretty much by DevOps practices between the development guys and the operations guys. So think of a DevOps role that the guy that sits in the middle bridge between developers and operations engineers that lets pretty much the deployment, the entire software development cycle to kind of be more to run more smoothly, right? So there's no longer going to be the code is working on my laptop, is not working on the web server because the second one engineer first checks in their code and is pushed to the branch, automatically a build is done, right? Some artifacts are created, a test is done. So the multiple tests are done in pre-prod, QA before it's being released to prod. So if it wasn't working in some environment, it would have been picked up either during the build phase or during the testing phase or even during the safely graceful release to other environments before reaching prod. So DevOps is that bridge that kind of helps us to now have. Sometimes you go in your apps, you see that WhatsApp has released multiple versions in a day or any. You see different versions. How is it possible to do that? That frequency it's powered largely by the DevOps industry, DevOps practices, right? So DevOps engineer helps to manage all this building, testing phase, and it's very seamless manner such that if there are failed version releases, they can easily roll back, commits can be made faster, and the code can be easily even transferred and reproduced and things like that. So these are just a couple of tools that you'll be using or tools that are used in the DevOps world, but I think I've dealt with this enough. Let's move on. So there are different concepts to cloud DevOps, right? There's continuous and integration and continuous delivery, which basically automates the process of code being written and being deployed to production. In this example here, we have a developer that's written some bunch of code, and yes, it thinks that is ready to go. It pushes that code to what we call a Git system. So this Git system is what is like a versioning system. You create version 1, version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, depending version 2, right, like, and so on and so forth. So it does help you to keep track of where you are so that if you create a new branch and something breaks, you can easily roll back to a previous commit. So this Git process is how we do versioning, maintaining that versioning system to ensure that we can easily roll back, you can safely release applications. So just an example now, a developer pushes some code to Git. There are different Git repositories. There's GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, different Git repositories there. So possibly in your Git repository, you have some actions, some hooks that are listening for commits, and automatically when a push is done, it automatically triggers. Remember, the idea is automating code to production, not that developer will write the code, you give you the artifact, will send it to you, you go and run it. It's not working, it's not working. What are the dependency requirements? Blah, blah, blah. So everything is now automated, right? Developer pushes some code to Git, some Git branch, whatever. It triggers a build process using your CD tool. If you're using Jenkins, this is just an example. I'm not saying here that every project you work on as a DevOps engineer will use Jenkins. I'm just giving it an example of Jenkins, which is a trusted and popular solution used to manage your CI/CD process. So hopefully after that, some artifacts are created, so build and test is done, you get your image is saved, pushed to Docker registry, and hopefully your development environment running in Kubernetes is listening, is doing a Git pull, is listening, is pulling your registry for new images, and immediately sees there's a new image to pull it, to refresh that, and to deploy that image to production. You don't have to understand all that I've said. These are just different tools. The logic is what you need to know, that continuous integration, continuous delivery is one of the core concepts of the job of a cloud DevOps engineer, where you'll be automating the release of code directly from development all the way to production. Git is just an example of a versioning system about the most popular. Jenkins is another popular. Docker is for containerized for workloads when you package your code as containers, and just makes it more reproducible. I'll discuss more on this when I get to the containers part. And Kubernetes is just like an orchestration engine for your containers. You don't need to understand it, just giving you a high level of what it means to automate code delivery from development to production. Right. Another core concept of cloud DevOps is infrastructure as code, right? So in the past, engineers would configure their servers. I've ordered a server myself before. It took like 3-4 months to arrive, but 6 months in fact. But thankfully now, in the cloud era, where you can easily just launch servers at the click of a button online, you don't have to wait that long. So typically when you receive a server, you configure it, you design what you'll have predetermined what your RAID system, your redundancy that you want to use for this. Maybe it's RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 3, RAID 5, there's no RAID 4, right, or RAID 10, whatever RAID system. The idea is just to ensure redundancy, so that if one array, disk array breaks, you can have redundancy, you can recover the data. So the idea of infrastructure as code is that you don't have to worry too much about how did I configure it. Imagine if I configure that server and left the business. It's very hard for someone to maintain it that doesn't know how it was configured. You configure the OS, the hypervisor, the virtual machines. Was a lot of work, and it was very, very difficult to reproduce after you've done one. Sometimes I have some customers that there's some legacy code are running on the environment. The people that develop it are long gone, possibly dead, but the code just works. Maybe they were written even COBOL or Perl, very old languages, not modern languages like Go, Python, and things like that. So because it's running, just left the code like that, even if it's old, because they can't touch it, they don't know how it works. But possibly if there was infrastructure as code at that time, it would have been easier to piece the part together. But my point here is that one of the core concepts of cloud DevOps is infrastructure as code, which helps you to, instead of configuring your servers by hand, manually click what we call ClickUps, you can now provision your infrastructure as code. Typically, it's your application website that used to be packaged as code. But in this new era of cloud DevOps, even your server configuration, your orchestration engineering configuration, if you're using ECS or Kubernetes or some other infrastructure to run your code, is now going to be codified. The idea is that when there are changes, it's easy to roll back, right? That's one of the advantages of having your infrastructure as code. Another advantage is that you can reproduce it. Let's say you created an environment and you want to reproduce in another environment, another account, another cloud provider. It's easy to run the same templates in another code because everything is scripted. But if it's one scripted, you try to remember and not be clicking buttons. That's not a very good way to do it. Especially a company like Netflix that has thousands of accounts, hundreds of thousands of instances, servers. It's very hard to do. So infrastructure of code just kind of simplifies that process for us. So you can save your entire infrastructure as scripts, templates, and policies, and just do git push, git pull to update or change or add new servers or add new resources or change some resource configuration. And there are different. Pretty much the most popular one is Terraform now, and Ansible, Chef, Puppet. These are configuration management tools, and CloudFormation as well, which is an AWS product. The idea is that instead of provisioning infrastructure by hand, clicking buttons, you can now do it by code and just watch the magic. Click on the button, Terraform, apply, whatever way you're deploying your code, and see how your entire infrastructure of maybe 500 resources are provisioned and coupled together. That's one core concept of infrastructure as code. Another concept of infrastructure of cloud DevOps is containerization. Now, what's containers? Is it container import and export containers like our Igbo brothers used to do, or all those giant containers that follow on Ojuelegba Bridge, or no, I'm not referring to those kind of containers. Containers in this case are lightweight process, isolated processes that can run independently. You remember that issue I told you at the start where developers develop code and argue with the operations guys? It's working on my laptop. I can tell you, come and see, it's working on but it's not working in cloud. The solution was that one of the solutions, I'm not saying the perfect solution, was to containerize the application where everything is bundled together in an image in a Docker file that's going to be eventually converted to an image. That image has all the requirements, dependencies that code needs to run, and your application code, such that if you carry that container to any cloud provider anywhere in the world, any machine, once you launch that container, it is to have the same behavior as your laptop. It solved that problem of it's working on my laptop, is not working on the web server, right? So containers are lightweight applications. One of the most popular container management solutions is Docker's. There's Mirantis, there's several of them, but Docker is one of the most respected in the industry. And the main difference with VMs is that you don't have to manage RAM or manage the hypervisor layer that will run the containers, right? You only have to build the application package your code into containers, and it will now be run on a Docker engine that will be isolated by processes. The main difference is that VMs run on hypervisors while containers run as processes, lightweight processes isolated at that process layer, run on a specific engine, right? So typically when you design your code, maybe you're designing the next Firefly.ai or Cloud.ai, maybe not Cloud.ai, Cloud.ai is too big example. Maybe any fancy application, Snapchat, whatever application that you're building, you package it as a Docker file, it gets built and packaged into a Docker image, and you can deploy it on any Docker container or a registry of some sort, either ECR or whatever registry you want to use. So that's the idea of containers. So containerization is a very big part of DevOps, which you'll be using a lot. It also helps us in the era of microservices. Don't worry, if you as you go on in your cloud journey, you'll begin to learn about microservices. And pretty much containers help to power the microservices industry because um let me just give you as a layman to understand microservices. Think of Amazon.co.uk or Amazon.nl or Amazon.co.za, co.za or Amazon.com. Typically, you have different services. Instead of having a single page application, you have multiple services all working orchestrated together. Before that page loads, it has called multiple services. What does that mean? You have a cart service separate from the invoicing service from the inventory service from the recommendation engine, separate from the ordering service. So the idea of having multiple services on a single website is such that if one part fails, if the cart fails, you don't want a cart fail. So that's a bad example. If the recommendation engine fails, you don't want it to bring down your website. In the past, say 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there used to be a lot of website failures. I'm not saying there are no website failures now. We have typical example, Unilag accommodation registry. Anytime Unilag students are going back to school, like, it's always a craze. They'll be telling all their family around the world to please let them sign on the portal because it's first confess in this industry, life shouldn't be that hard. I'm not talking of that. That's a special case. Now, the normal case in the industry we have now, a failure of a component shouldn't bring down your entire websites, right? Typically, so in Amazon, you notice that Google.com is always online. It's not every time all their services are online. But when you get internet now, you type in Google.com, Google has created that so much confidence that anytime the first thing when you get a new laptop or new phone to test that there's internet, because they've maintained reliability of that start site to very, very high, 99.9999%, so that the reliability is gonna, even if Gmail fails, Google Drive fails, it doesn't bring down the entire Google.com website. That's the idea. So containers help to power that because you can now call them by APIs. When a page wants to load, we just call the ordering and call these different multiple services by API before the page loads. So if one person doesn't respond, boom, it doesn't break the entire DOM from loading. I've bored you with containers, but yeah, it's a very big part of Cloud DevOps and it's one of the core concepts. Let's move on. Monitoring and observability. I love this one a lot because if you can observe, if you can monitor what is happening in your application, right? then pretty much you can't determine when there's an issue. You can troubleshoot, right? I spent about 5 years as a troubleshooter engineer, so I know what I mean. It's important to properly log, trace, and metrics. That's why one of the core concepts, practices of DevOps is monitoring and observability. There are several different observability solutions. There's Prometheus, Grafana, Last PagerDuty, Datadog, Logly. There are a lot of them. But the idea is that the logs that are coming from your application, someone tries to log in, it fails, that's logged. Someone tries to log in, it's successful, it's logged. Someone loads a page, everything is logged. Metrics. How's the server performing? How's the CPU doing? How's the memory doing? Is the memory crashing every time? Is the memory hitting 100%? You need to monitor that as a DevOps engineer to keep your application, to keep the website they're maintaining very stable, right? So monitoring and observability is one of the core concepts of cloud DevOps. Now, that's just about four of a high level, top four core concepts of cloud DevOps. Now, DevOps is in demand. Like, this is just a 30-minute, 35-minute talk, so we can't go deep into everything about cloud. This is just to kind of what do you call it? To get your tongues, salivating, get you interested, and possibly pursue a career in cloud computing or pivot into cloud computing and put it nicely if you're interested. So DevOps is in demand, and according to Tech Need, DevOps engineer roles have grown by 75% on Indeed and 50% on LinkedIn in 2025 alone, with average salary of £700,000 to £81,000. That's a lot of money. So if you're interested in being a DevOps engineer, you earn good money, you earn good salary. So it's not guaranteed that at the start you would earn 70%. But as you begin to build your portfolio, add to your skills, you can begin to enter that range. So DevOps is in demand, high demand. As you can see, the curve there is growing. The business itself helps to solve manual toil, reduce outages, slow releases. All those things I said helps you just achieve that more reliability of your websites, right? It's not just tech that is hires DevOps engineers. Finance, government, healthcare, retail, all of them are hiring for DevOps engineers. You might not see the role cloud DevOps exactly on LinkedIn or Indeed when you're searching for jobs, but I'll get to the section where we'll see the different kind of roles that are available to a cloud DevOps engineer. So how do you start as a beginner? Let me first bust the myth. You don't need to have a CS degree or 10 years experience required. You don't need to have. We have people that have joined the Cloud Booster program that came in directly from a master's program in literature or in agriculture or different fields, are now working as platform engineers or infrastructure cloud engineers in the industry. So you don't need a CS degree. You don't need 10 years experience. All you need is a skill, knowledge, and willingness to learn. In fact, about the most important skill as a DevOps engineer is your ability to learn. Learning how to learn is very important because different tools are released every day. It's Cloud Code today, tomorrow is this Mythos model, next tomorrow is Opus 7.0, it is DeepSeek is cooking another model that they want to use to rival. So it's Gemini Pro tomorrow. So different things are going to be coming at you. You only need to know what's important, the most optimal solution to do your job. Don't worry, my students in the cloud DevOps cohorts in Cloud Booster, they hear a lot about this on a weekly basis. Yeah, so there's a foundational stack that you need to master across any cloud provider. It's not every project that will use AWS Cloud. Some might be using Azure Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, but the idea is the same across all those clouds. You need to master one, and you can easily float around depending on the project that you find yourself. But across all cloud providers, Linux is a basic skill that you need to pick up. It's not a day job, but something that you begin to pick up. Now, I'll say you shouldn't be afraid of Linux, but let me bust your mind. 70 to 80% of the world's websites run on Linux. I know most of us use maybe Windows laptop, right? Maybe still 60% use Windows laptops, right? But the world out there, the websites I use every day, Facebook, Netflix, Uber.com, Uber, many popular websites I use at the back end, most of them are running on Linux environment because Linux is faster, it boots faster, processes run faster, networking is also faster. You can put in a lot of the networking IO is faster, so it just makes more sense to run your backend websites on Linux compared to Windows. There's some use cases where Windows might trump, but even many of that now Windows is now, or Microsoft themselves, that are making the new applications portable that you can easily port them to Linux with the .NET Core. For those of you interested or more advanced, yes, you can run .NET Core, the new versions on even Linux environment. So you need to pick up one scripting language at least, right? Either Python or Bash for a start. Scripting, these are foundational stuff. Foundational for every cloud engineer, regardless of where you work. Eventually, Git is very important. You need to know how to push code, how to create code reviews. Yeah, Git is important because that's how you'll be able to do versioning, so that if you commit a wrong code, it doesn't bring out the entire world, right? The world has been brought down. If you're following the news by Cloudflare recently, I'm not throwing shit to Cloudflare, but yeah, you might think it's small, but a push can easily bring down the whole world, the whole internet. If you're working for a company like AWS or Cloudflare, that the world largely depends on. I'm not throwing shit. So for anyone working for Cloudflare, no bad feelings. But there's been a lot of outages in the past past 6 months that brought down the quite large part of the internet. Yeah, so you have to add to your skill cloud in one way or the other. Pick one platform. As I said, I'm saying again, AWS has the largest market share. You don't necessarily need to learn AWS, learn Azure. Once you master one, is the same implementation pretty much on other ones. Learn a CI/CD tool and one infrastructure as code tool. I recommend Terraform, and Docker is very important across any cloud provider. Then also take certifications to help you, that kind of puts credibility, street credibility, right? That's how they say it, right? Street credibility, put some street credibility to your name. So certifications, add certifications under your belt. So, stamp that thing on you that say, oh, okay, you are certified, right? It's a very good way to put your foot in the door. There are a lot of free resources out there. AWS has free tier accounts, free tier services that you can use to learn without incurring costs, labs, YouTube channels, and most importantly, you have opportunity to join a Cloud Booster DevOps cohort, and where you'll be immersed for a couple of weeks in Cloud DevOps and pick up tools along the line. You've introduced AWS, Azure on the side, and kind of ramp you up. It's like, think of it as an incubator program to get you from zero to hero. And I'm not giving you all those aspire to aspire. Like, you just know that we try to impact as much as possible into you and introduce opportunities, put you in touch with people, industry professionals, learn from industry professionals that can help you ramp you up fast. So this is a typical DevOps roadmap. This is not set in stone. Different solutions are released every day. One programming language is important. You need to understand the fundamentals of network and security. You don't have to do this in a day. Pace yourself. 6 months roadmap. 9 months. If you're working, you can do 12 months. For example, when I wanted to learn code, when I wanted to take my first AWS certification, that was in 2018. I bought a Cloud Guru online 1 year subscription, and over 1 year I used to learn and prepare. Some people might prepare for that exam in 3 months, but I did a year because I was working and I paced myself to get to that point where I could take the exam. So yeah, so you don't have to do all this in a day, go through, learn all this. Just know that it's a journey. Programming language, networking, infrastructure as code, monitoring and logging is important. One cloud provider at least, CI/CD, servers, how servers work, pretty much how containers work, SQL, caching layer, web servers, server admin, just elementary server administration. Now, I was saying it there that Cloud DevOps is not the only role that you find on Indeed or LinkedIn, right? There are different roles: DevOps engineer, DevSecOps engineer, SysOps engineer, site platform. Yeah, the myriad of them, right? The DevSecOps typically just do more security in addition to the DevOps work. SysOps do more systems operations compared to development operations. SREs do more coding and more scripting, trying to script and eliminate away toil, any technical depths. They try to code it. These are very good seasoned software engineering, data engineering, those that are interested in analytics, Spark, Kafka, things like solutions architecture, cloud support. So there are a lot of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. Just know that within the framework of cloud DevOps, cloud computing, there are multiple roles where you can fit in. So as we're going through, you might have found one that sounds interesting. It might be the security part, it might be DevSecOps, might be security engineering. There's a place for you in the cloud. If you want to do platform engineering, there's a place for you. And if you want to do system development, you want to do some coding with the work. If you want to do software engineering, heavy software engineering, there's space for almost everyone, at least across different disciplines. There's data here, there's security here, there's systems here, there's development, so security, so different opportunities. So in addition to picking up a skill, also build up your portfolio as you're learning. Whatever projects that you're doing, try to put them on GitHub so that when you're applying for internships, when you're applying for internships, when you're applying for jobs, engineer development engineer roles, you can have some what do you call it now? Some portfolio, some repository to share that, oh, this is the work I've done. Even if it's just a simple CI/CD end-to-end application you're able to build, you use some different tools, Jenkins, you use some GitHub, you use GitHub Actions. You can just put them together, have it there so that they see that, oh, you actually have. This is a public facing. GitHub is a popular one. You might have a GitLab one, but whatever. GitHub is popular. I recommend you have a GitHub GitHub page that shows your work, your portfolio. Right. Okay, I've been boring you now. It's time for questions. If you don't ask questions, I'm gonna have to ask you questions. So let's take some 10 minutes to answer questions that you've had so far. This was just meant to be a teaser, right? It's not meant to take you very deeply into DevOps. What's the DevOps difference between DevOps and I know we had a link to put in your questions, but let me just first take those that wrote directly on the chat. There's what's Adela is saying, what's the difference between DevOps and cloud engineering? Also from someone very new into the cloud with very to no technical knowledge. Do I lean to learn how to code? Good question. DevOps is a field in cloud engineering. All these roles here are cloud engineers in one way. As long as you're doing something, pushing something to the cloud, you're a cloud engineer. Maybe DevOps engineering, that's the cloud engineering. So cloud is the place where you sit. I'm not saying you'll be sitting in heavenly places. Yeah, you sit in heavenly spaces spiritually, but I'm not saying you'll be sitting in the clouds like Artemis crew that are coming down to earth now. Not that way, but you'll be sitting in the intersection of development, and many people deploy their code, new applications. Cloud enabled the startups industry. So if you're going to be doing working for startups or working for companies that using the applications in the cloud, even Gov.uk, I think possibly they're running in the cloud now, but most companies are now trying to move their workloads to the cloud, right? Cloud provider, either AWS, Google, Azure, right? So cloud engineering is any of those disciplines, security engineering, SecOps engineer that have something to do in terms of systems, computer work or IT work in the cloud, right? So those are cloud engineers. So DevOps engineer is a cloud engineer. So when you're searching for jobs in LinkedIn, don't just restrict yourself to DevOps and search for cloud engineer platform. Everything is the same thing. It's just different branches as I've put on this. All of them just have nuanced differences between them. Does that answer? Okay, so you said the second question, part of your question says, do I need to learn how to code? Interesting question. If you remember, one of the top 3 things I said, the core skills when I started was that you can't escape the foundational stack. Linux basics and command line, being comfortable working with the command line, CLI for short, one scripting language. You don't need to know how to code to be a badass developer developing Cloud.ai or OpenAI or developing very big application. It might just be some for loops there. In fact, you're not going to be doing a lot of coding now. AI will be doing most of the coding in the next 1 year. So if you're learning to code, to understand the rationale of, it's good to understand the logic, okay, how for loops work, how indexing, searching arrays work, how if statements works, how conditional statements works, how objects work, how classes work, how object-oriented programming works. Those 5 header. Where all the rest of doing hardcore coding, AI will do most of it for you. So you don't have to be banging your head learning code now. In our cloud core program, introduced to Linux, introduced to Python. We don't go too deep into it, we just give you what you need exactly. So when you say, do I learn to know how to code? You don't need to learn how to code like a big developer developing Facebook, developing Instagram, but pretty much just a little bit of that can get you there is what you need to know. But it's one of the key foundational stack for every DevOps engineer, whatever, regardless of where you're, even if you're a security engineer in the cloud, because security job is now codified. All these policies, IAM policies, security policies, resource policies, SC, service control policies, everything is codified in JSON format that you're going to check into some code from some environment, some versioning system to be able to maintain them. Does that answer your question, Adiola? Adiola, are you still there? Okay, fantastic. Okay, we have another question. Phillips Nelson, is DevOps related to cybersecurity? Since there's a security engineer role, yes, there's a security engineer role in the field, and that's the DevSecOps one. So these DevSecOps guys, they'll do more of security work. Think of example, an engineer joins the team, or engineer that is in the team needs access to some production environment where the website, all the customers are accessing, it needs access to that public facing websites. Normally nobody has access, but because there's an issue, they want to go and log into the server. Now, okay, call the security SecOps. They call them SecOps team, security operations. SecOps, please, can you give this guy policy to be able to do X, Y, Z? And the guy will go on the code, Terraform. This one, give him policy. Maybe it's S3. You want to give him access to be able to read from the S3. S3 get object, bam, commit the code, approve, maybe manager approve, boom. Gives you when it is done, they take that permission. So they're security engineers. There are also those that work in the network, manage of network firewall rules, web application firewalls, Cloudflare firewall rules, IP gateways rules, rate limiting rules. So security is a big concept. In fact, is one very big part. Well, security. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, yes, you can carve your niche for yourself in cloud engineering with the DevSecOps role. Yeah, does that answer your question? And that's Phillips Nelson. Yes, we give some time, very good time for questions, because I know it's not important to just be going through. Oh, let me open Slido now to see the questions. So 30 minutes ago. Okay, how do I start now? How do I sort by those that?
All right. So, Charles, I will be asking you the question. So
Okay, good. Thank
can
you.
answer it. All right. So, there's a question here from someone. He's asking, from your position as a TAM, which cloud DevOps specialization do you see driving the most hiring activity right now, and which one do you think is underrated?
That's a good question. Which DevOps specialization do you see is driving most hiring activity right now, and which one do you think is underrated? Well, I'll say across all roles, you need to learn how to work with AI tools, right? You need to learn how to use AI tools to make your life easier. So if you've not learned how to use Cloud Code or learn how to use some AI tool for development, I beg you, go and learn it. Now AI go to do your coding the next 1 year. So pick up one AI tool through CLI to be able to improve your efficiency, improve your speed, right? So anybody that has AI to join a skill is an asset anywhere, right? Security is also becoming very, very important, because even in the AI framework of things, people want to learn how to secure their environments from AI going rogue and taking over their system. So security will always be a very, very big part, right? security is also a very big part. Data platform, data engineering, data engineers, they're also in demand now. Why? Because many companies, the big companies have data scattered all over the place. And before you can use AI, generative AI to create knowledge bases to understand the environment, the data has to be formatted, it has to be unified in such a way that that's be formatted, indexed and put in some vector database. Sorry, I'm going too technical, but for a layman, all that data, many companies are looking for people that can help them unify it and create what we call a data platform, a unified data platform. So data is also a very big, data analytics are very big part. So security, data analytics, anything with AI, any of these roles with AI join, it's an asset, a hot asset in the field at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles. I hope that answers your question to whoever asked that. Okay, so before we go on, Charles, you can stop sharing your screen for a minute. Yes. So we have another question. I feel like these people came for you. They already did their research a little bit. So this person is asking, when a company like AWS evaluates cloud professionals, what separates a successful candidate from unsuccessful ones?
Well, by all means, I recommend. I won't discourage you from applying to AWS, but there are many other companies out there, and AWS is one of AWS is pioneer in the cloud, right? There are different skills in AWS. There are different roles. There's HR, there's legal, there's recruiting. There's different roles, right? Even within the within the AWS cloud computing ecosystem, there are different roles. There's solutions architects, there's technical account managers where I belong. I used to be in cloud engineering, cloud support engineering. There's SREs, there's developers, there's AI ML engineers that are working on model development, there's different roles. So what separates is successful candidates from unsuccessful ones? Different reasons. Well, but the standard candidates from AWS in particular, they must embody what we call our leadership principles. AWS has about 14 leadership principles which must embody. You must be able to tell a story of how you've done something. You must be able to tell your story in structured format, star format, and that aligns with AWS leadership principles. That's one part. The second part is technical. Now, the technical are in different levels. There's the level 100 technical, level 200 technical, level 300, level 400 technical. So it depends on the role if you're looking for a junior role, you'll be asked level 100. They will expect you to raise the bar on level 100, level 20. If you're applying for a mid-level, level 200, level 300. If you're applying for a senior role, level 300. If you're applying for a principal role, they expect you to go level 400, 500 if that exists. But yeah, so you need to be able to meet. You don't just apply for any role. Look at the level of the role, if it matches to, because the expectation will be, you need to meet the expectation for the level of the role. So as there are cloud engineers, there's junior cloud engineer, there's senior cloud engineers, there's principal cloud, there's staff cloud engineers, so different level than they. So if you know yourself, just maintain yourself to the part where you feel that you have more that you're aligned to, then they'll ask you questions on that side. So I won't recommend if you're just starting in the cloud, applying for a senior role, or you might want to start associate and gradually improve. Does that help? And this doesn't just apply to AWS, it applies for any company. Like, make sure you tailor the application to school rules that at least that you can meet, that you can raise the bar on.
All right. Thank you so much, Charles. I believe that was helpful to the person who asked the question and to everyone on the call, because it's like an insider gist that you just got right there. Okay,
Those are publicly available as well. Please don't put me in trouble.
Okay, I see. All right, that's fine. Okay, another question. How much does your day-to-day role? Okay, I'm trying to rephrase this. How does your day-to-day role at AWS require you to explain Cloud DevOps concepts to business leaders? And is that a skill newbies should be developing early? So that will be our final question.
How does Cloud DevOps? So Cloud DevOps is just one part of the cloud. One part of the cloud. Yeah, there's another level called FinOps, financial operations. There's another level called cloud strategy, right? I won't recommend you start. There's another level called enterprise architecture. I won't recommend you start at the top, right? You can start as a junior cloud engineer and gradually ramp up. But to answer your question, how often typically business leaders are concerned about their bottom line, their business goals. So you won't go there to be telling them, okay, this is how DevOps, this is how you commit your code. It's be a different conversation. And that's where I speak to senior executives now as a technical account manager, helping them translate their business goals using cloud technology to accelerate their business goals using cloud technology. So to be a different conversation was going to be optimization, cost optimization. It's going to be financial operations. It's going to be talked about cloud of maturity. It won't be raw cloud DevOps. It's something you grow into. So business leaders are not concerned about you committing code or clicking buttons, or how their IT business leaders are concerned about what will grow their business, how they will achieve their objectives for the year. So it's just a different way to look about. Everybody's appreciated. Every rule is important, but business leaders won't necessarily be too focused on details like cloud DevOps, or how their code is being committed, or how their code is being safely released in the cloud.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Charles, for this amazing session. And I think this has really, really been impactful. Please, if this was an impactful session to you, can we just use the emoji to appreciate Charles for this wonderful session? Because that is all the questions we'll be able to take for tonight. You can join us again next week for another session, fully packed, and we'll be sharing more details about that in the course of the week. Thank you so much, Charles. We can see all the actions. Yes, yes, that was really, really an amazing one.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, privileged. All right, so we're going to be getting into the second part of this session. Please don't go anywhere yet. We're going to be getting into the second part of this session right about now. And just give me some few minutes to get my screen up. Hey, so I know that we've heard a lot that was helpful for us to make the decision, to come to make that decision, whether we're going to be transitioning into tech or not. And from our questions as well, I can see that some people are absolutely interested in taking this further. And we are going to be diving straight into the second part just to intimate us about how you can really get immersed into our program, like Charles had already mentioned, talked about Cloud Booster. So this is just to guide you on how you can get started with us, because Cloud DevOps is not something that is not doable. It's something that is learnable. It's a learnable skill for you all, just like we have been saying so far. Okay. So what's the next step for you, basically? What's the next step? What does the next step looks like for you? So at Cloud Booster, we have 4 intensive pathways to land your dream role, as you can rightly see on the screen. Okay, so we have the cloud computing, we have the advanced DevOps, we have the platform engineer, and we also have the site reliability engineer. And each of these pathways will take you 8 weeks for you to finish up, and then move to the next one, and move to the next one, and move to the next one, depending on your choice and depending on where you desire to start from. I know somebody joined the call and said he's a site reliability engineer. That's Mustafa. So for Mustafa, right, he might not want to get started with cloud computing, but just want to join the site reliability engineer pathway as well, or something much more advanced than that. So depending on where you are, you can decide to go for whatever pathway works for you, but we would also share more details about that as we go along. All right, so at Cloud Booster, we take you from the beginner to being job ready professional through our structured learning, bespoke lab session, relevant tools, access to industry experts like we have Charles on the call. These are some of the things that our students get to enjoy. Access to the industry leaders like Charles. We have him on the call tonight as well. Motivation and accountability partners, weekly drop-in sessions, group projects, soft skills, work experience, career support, internship opportunity, alumni support as well. So these and many more are the things that you'll be getting once you join us for the program. All right, but there is more, basically, there is more, and we wouldn't like to wrap this up without telling you about how you can really get started. And we have something special for you. We have something special for you. So we are giving you a special discount because we are going to be starting another cohort by 25th of April. Come 25th of April, we are going to be getting started with another cohort. We have an ongoing cohort at the moment, and we are going to be getting started with a cloud computing, advanced DevOps as well, depending on which one you want to join as well. So for the cloud pathway, it's going to be, we're going to be giving it out for £1,350. And then for the advanced DevOps pathway, it's also going to be for £1,350. This is something that ordinarily you should have paid £3,000, you should have paid £2,400, but we are going to be giving you for £1,300. Okay, so if you want to get started right away, of course, you can definitely reach out to our program advisors as well. So depending on the pathway that you're going for, if you're going for just one pathway, it's going to be for £1,350. If you're going for the two pathways, it's going to be for £2,400 as well. And then for the three pathways, it's going to be for £3,450. So depending on which you're going for, remember that it's 4 different pathways. You just have to pay £1,350 for each of the pathway. Okay, so if you are interested in joining us for the next cohort, which is going to be starting 25th of April, that's on Saturday. If you're interested, you've made up your mind, you believe that this is something you can make the time for, go right now and just make your payment by scanning the QR code as you can see on the screen. You can go ahead and scan the QR code right on your screen, or you can also reach out to our program advisors if you feel like maybe you want to talk to them about the plans, the payments plans and installment payments. That's also open. We allow that as well. So you can reach out to the program advisors. Their numbers are displayed on the screen right now. And we also have the QR code. So you can just scan that and it will take you straight to their WhatsApp contact. So ensure that you do that and just send ESD to our program advisors. That's, like a special discount, just so we can know that you signed up for the special program and you were right on this call for the webinar. All right. So that will bring us to the end of today's webinar call. And sure, the QR code are still on the screen, still displayed on the screen. So we're just waiting for you to scan them. I'm sure that it's also going to be in the comment section as well. You can pick the numbers up and just go right on and make your payments to join us for the next phase. All right. If you have any question at all, you can just direct it to our program advisors and then they will guide you on how to move forward from there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking our time to join us. We would see you next time. All right. Bye, everyone.